Welcome to Faith Nation, Congressman Waltz. It's great to have you with us this evening. So what is your reaction to the president's decision to not move that August 31st deadline?
Well, it's both heartless, it's cruel, and it's clueless in terms of the disconnect between the reality on the ground. Look, there was overwhelming condemnation today, Republican and Democrat across the board, for not extending that deadline. In a briefing with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Director of National Intelligence, there continues to be a total disconnect between what President Biden is saying in public, that everything's fine and going to be fine, and then what we're hearing in private from his own team in classified briefings, where they admit that Americans and our Afghan allies are being hunted down. They're in danger, and that al-Qaeda is going to come roaring back. It's not a matter of if, but just when. So at the end of the day, America is less safe, less respected as part of this decision, and less feared by our own allies. This is a disaster of historic proportions that will be felt for years to come.
Congressman, you have a long military background, as we can see behind you in those coins on your wall. You're noted also as being the first Green Beret to be elected to Congress. Today, you were joined by your fellow Republicans to address the crisis. For those who did not get a chance to hear it, let's go ahead and listen to some of your comments.
Well, this Congress is going to lead. Our offices right now are operations centers, calling gate guards, calling Kabul airport, guiding people through, telling them how to avoid Taliban checkpoints, our own Congress. It's unbelievable, the lack of leadership. So I 100% agree. That blood is and will be on Joe Biden's hands, and this Congress will hold him accountable.
Congressman, care to expand on your message, and is that also the message of your fellow vets?
It absolutely was. This is deeply personal for us. I've been successful in getting some of Afghans and American citizens through enemy lines and to the United States. I lost one who was captured at a Taliban checkpoint and beheaded along with members of his family. These are people that stood by American soldiers and took bullets alongside us for freedom and for our way of life and to fight against Islamic extremism. Just the cruelty, the apathy, and the heartlessness coming out of the White House and the lack of leadership is just jaw-dropping, frankly. But from a national security standpoint, the blow to American credibility, think about what people in the Ukraine or Taiwan facing China or other places are thinking now about whether America will stand with them. Think about so many veterans now that are questioning, and Gold Star families, of whether their sacrifice was in vain. Think of the 9/11 victims. We're just weeks away from the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and yet we're being dictated to by the Taliban 20 years later, and al-Qaeda is going to be back again for some future 9/11. So the blood that's going to be on Biden's hands is not just the Americans and Afghans trapped in Kabul right now as we speak, but that future attack on the homeland and future American soldiers that are going to have to go back once again and deal with the threat of terrorism, but this time with no bases, no local allies, and with a Taliban that's armed to the teeth with our own equipment that we allowed to fall in their hands. So yes, my fellow veterans and I and every American should be furious and should be outraged right now.
Congressman, let's talk about our troops for a minute. We are seeing some amazing images come out of Afghanistan. Men and women in uniform showing really true heart in the midst of such difficult circumstances. Despite the politics, there is so much to be said for our service members.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want them to hear me loud and clear. For those that are there now and those that have been there the last 2 decades, look, your sacrifice was not in vain. We kept America safe for an entire generation that didn't have to worry about planes flying into buildings or suicide bombers on school buses. But, unfortunately, we're right back to September 10th, 2001 again, but worse for all of the reasons that I just described. Our veterans, our men and women in uniform will always do their job. What's so amazing is the ones who have been there are now working around the lack of leadership of our own government and working around the bureaucracy and organizing groups to go get our allies out and get Americans out on their own. That's how dedicated they are to this mission and to keeping our homeland safe and to keeping terrorism over there rather than in our backyard.
Yeah. All right, Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida's 6th District, thank you so much for your service and for joining us tonight.
Thank you.